Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Right now, get a free select tool when you buy the Craftsman V20 2-pack battery kit. Whether it's the backyard, the bathroom, or beyond, Craftsman has the tools to help you power through and get the project done right. Because DIYing is unpredictable, but your tools shouldn't be. Shop Craftsman at Lowe's today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Nats Chat is brought to you by Walters. Walters is the best sports bar in Navy Yard, located just across the street from Nationals Park. Also a great place to check out if you're headed to Audi Field.
Make sure to check out their self-pour beer wall and unlimited TVs.
Now the pitch. Swinging a ground ball toward the middle. Abrams to his left. Can't make the play. It goes behind him into center field, and Hayward keeps on going. He's into third base. So CJ Abrams to his left. A possible double play ball, and he never came up with it and deflected it out into center field. And now the Dodgers have runners on first and third with nobody out. Williams the pitch, swinging a line drive, base hit over the leaping Smith, down the right field line into the corner. Freeman rounding second, back to the bag with a line drive double into the right field corner. The extra out really proving costly to the Nationals as the Dodgers plate 3 here in the bottom of the 5th inning. It's Los Angeles 3 and Washington 1. Now Williams sets. Here's a pitch, swung on, belted to deep right center field. Back goes call to the warning track. At the wall, going, gone, goodbye. A 3-run homer for J.D. Martinez. And this inning has really blown up on Trevor Williams and the Nationals.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. So Memorial Day is the first of the 3 traditional holiday checkpoints in the MLB season. July 4th and Labor Day would be the other holiday checkpoints. It happens to work out that the Nats, with their game on Memorial Day, reached the exact 1/3 point of their regular season, game number 54. The game, though, did not work out. The Nats lost at the National League West leading and now National League leading Los Angeles Dodgers 6-1 late night on Monday night. So the Nats now are 23-31. They are on pace for 69 wins off in the 2022 regular season, having a Major League worst 55 wins. A 14-game improvement would be good, but the Dodgers now are a National League best 33-22. And Mark, we talked about this a bit on the last installment of the podcast. The Dodgers are not the Kansas City Royals, and so when you make a mistake or two, even the mistake or two can prove to be lethal, and that ended up being the case for the Nats on Monday night.
For 4 innings, they're right there with them. Trevor Williams is pitching really well, I thought, to that point. The lineup squeezed out a run. Would have been nice to add a little more to that. But as soon as that bottom of the 5th turned the way that it did, it felt like that was the game. And sure enough, that was the game because nothing else happened the rest of the way. I'm sure we're going to talk about what precipitated that and then everything that happened after that. But just to the larger point at the 3rd way mark of the season at 23-31, I think all things considered, you have to be pretty pleased with this. There are games that could have been won, to be sure. But I think you'd rather be in a position where there are games that you felt like you could have won. You could have had a better record than this, given the situation they're in. This has not been a case of a lot of games that they've been blown out. Even this one, a 5-run margin, was about as big of a blowout, if you want to call it that, as they've had in a while. So I think that's a really good sign for them. And at 23 wins times 3 is 69. If this team were to win 69 games this year, I think most people would think that was pretty nice, right?
I think absolutely, especially off what, expectations were going into this season. I mean, I had the thought going into this season, and I know that I was not alone in this thought, things might be worse this season. It might be a 52-win season for the Nats. I mean, you didn't know what to think. So, yeah, I mean, I think that with this season, it's impossible not to feel appreciably better about things. I do wonder the Nats, for the most part, have been pretty fortunate in terms of injury. There have been some injuries, but, this team has yet to really incur like a devastating blow to where a key guy is out for weeks or months. You wonder if, God forbid, a Mackenzie Gore or a Josiah Gray gets injured, Lane Thomas gets injured. I guess you have to say him, what might be the case. The organizational depth will be put to the test. But yeah, I mean, I think every Nats fan would have signed up for a 14-game improvement from last season to this season.
Yeah, 100%. And as we've talked about, it's not just the improvement of wins, but it's who is doing it. It's young guys are kind of at the forefront of this, headlined by the two young starters you just named. I think way back to 2007, a Nationals team that was in clear rebuilding mode, just kind of starting out, and they overachieved. And they won 73 games that year, if I remember right. And there was some optimism among some in the organization. The problem is the guys who did it that year were not the foundational players other than Ryan Zimmerman. It was Dimitri Young and Ronnie Belliard, those types of guys. No, this is a very different situation now where the contributors in many ways are the foundational building blocks. And so I think that adds even more to the reason for optimism, the way they're playing. Now, I do think when you look at the schedule coming up, and you alluded to this, we could see a little market correction here in the next couple of weeks when they're facing some much better competition. The Dodgers, the Phillies, the Braves, the Astros. This is not the Tigers and the Royals anymore. And so I would not be surprised if we see that winning percentage go down a little bit. As we saw in this game, there's a pretty clear difference in the rosters between these two teams. And the Dodgers, when you give them just a little bit of a crack to break through, they bust it wide open and they turn that game really into kind of a non-competitive game the rest of the way. Now, against Kansas City, you get away with that kind of stuff, and we actually saw the Nats get away with it. Here at Dodger Stadium, it's a lot harder to pull that off.
So Trevor Williams was the Nats starting pitcher on Monday night. He ended up having one of the stranger final lines that you'll ever see a starting pitcher have. Trevor Williams allowed 6 runs, all of which were unearned, in 5 innings. And all 6 of the unearned runs came in a 6-run Dodgers fifth. Williams, for the game, gave up 6 hits, a homer, a double, and 4 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw 90 pitches, 55 strikes versus 35 balls. The game basically was that 6-run Dodgers fifth, in which Williams allowed 6 unearned runs. All of the runs were unearned thanks to a fielding error by shortstop CJ Abrams. He botched the fielding of a potential double play grounder by Miguel Vargas near the middle of the infield. But Williams in the inning gave up a homer, a double, 2 singles, and 2 walks. You know, I feel like every few games I'm bringing this up to you, but this to me is another instance of official scoring in baseball needing to be altered. And I get that the official scorers are abiding by the rules, so I'm not blaming the scorers, but this to me was ridiculous that all of these runs were unearned for Trevor Williams in that inning because of this error by CJ Abrams. I mean, Williams in this inning really ended up falling apart. The 2 big blows, a 2-out, 2-run double by one of the all-time Nationals killers, Freddie Freeman, toward the right field corner for a 3-1 Dodgers lead. And then the big blow, a 2-out, 3-run opposite field home run by J.D. Martinez to right center field for a 6-1 Dodgers lead. So yeah, I mean, the error by Abrams was bad. That was not a good play. But geez, you didn't have to unravel the way that Williams ended up unraveling.
100%. I've never liked that rule when it comes to official scoring. And, you know, it is what the rule is. It's not like their discretion to decide what to do. The rule is you turn the error into an out and play out the rest of the inning. And if you get to a 3rd out before any runs score, well, then all the runs thereby are, by definition, are unearned. But let's be clear about this. That the error is early in the inning. It would not have been the 3rd out. They were hoping to turn 2. You can never assume the double play. It's the other part of it. There's still a few batters later before we now get to when things really start to come undone. And all he needed to do is record 1 more out against any of these guys. And instead, he goes single, 2-run double, walk, 3-run homer, single. So Trevor himself admitted he needs to do a better job. You have to pick up your teammates. Guys make errors. It's going to happen. It's your job as a pitcher to pick them up and not let an inning spiral out of control. And so I do think in some ways Trevor Williams gets off the hook here and all the focus ends up on CJ Abrams. And yes, it was an error, but it also was a well-struck grounder to his left. This was not right at him, and it required, a little bit of effort to make the play. All I'm saying is, yes, he should have made the play, but it's not 100 out of 100 times kind of play. It's a, 98 out of 100 times kind of play. Look, CJ Abrams has played pretty well at shortstop. This is only his 2nd error of the month at shortstop. So I think he's done a pretty good job. Yes, you would love for him to be flawless there. Errors are going to happen. It's part of the game. It's unfortunate when they're costly, but in this case, there was an opportunity by Trevor Williams to pick his teammate up and get out of that without nearly as much damage.
So Davey Martinez, as we've discussed, is in a tricky predicament these days with his bullpen. He did something on Monday night that you haven't seen Davey do a lot of with Trevor Williams this season, and that is have Williams face a lineup a third time through in a game. And of course, this was not just any lineup. This was the lineup of the mighty Dodgers. I don't blame Davey for doing this, but I mean, it's hard to ignore that third time through, he ended up having that 6-run fifth inning in which, yes, all of the runs were unearned. Do you think that the next time Davey faces this decision with Trevor Williams, we don't see him face a lineup third time through? Or are we at a point in the season to where you got to start trying to get a guy, especially a veteran pitcher like Trevor Williams, to face teams third times through orders?
Right. I think in a different scenario, if this is a really meaningful game in a pennant race, or certainly in October, you're going to have a quicker trigger and make that move. You'd be more aggressive and make that move preemptively. But right now for this team, we just talked about all weekend long how many relievers weren't available because of their usage. Are you now going to start this series by pulling your starter that quickly? And let's be clear, his pitch count was really low. The end of the fourth, he's at 50 pitches. Even after that sequence to go through the bottom of the lineup with the air and the inning continuing before you now get back to the top of the lineup again, he's somewhere in the 60s at that point. You're going to pull your starter at 60 pitches in the fifth inning, and he's only allowed at that point maybe one run to actually cross the plate. I don't think you can do that, not unless you've got a superhuman bullpen with lots of depth and lots of arms, and you're clearly doing this all the time and treating Trevor Williams as something less than a full-fledged starter. I'm not surprised at what happened. You face a really good lineup a third time. A pitcher like this is probably going to happen from time to time, but I cannot fault the decision, and I think it really raises red flags if a manager is pulling a starter that quickly, that low a pitch count when he's been that successful, and now asking your bullpen to cover 4+ innings again at a time when they've been so overworked to begin with.
Nats bullpen on Monday night did end up being really good. 2 Nats relievers combined for 3 perfect innings. Thaddeus Ward, 2 perfect innings with 2 strikeouts. Erasmo Ramirez, a perfect bottom of the 8th. And actually, with all of the runs being unearned, your Trevor Williams ERA does go down to 3.93. So, here we are a third of the way into the season, and 3 of the Nats' 5 starters in the rotation have ERAs for the season under 4, which I think would have stunned people had you said that to them in late March, early April. But yeah, I mean, Josiah Gray, Mackenzie Gore, Trevor Williams, each guy has an ERA under 4, although, as we just discussed with Trevor, the ERA going down on Monday night is a bit misleading. Hey guys, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. Some amazing news from Window Nation. You can modernize and reinvest in your home today with new windows from Window Nation, all while capitalizing on Window Nation's best deal of the year. 0% financing for 5 years. Unheard of. 0 interest for 5 years. And Window Nation will give you 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. But act soon, because this deal does expire at the end of the month. Protect and increase the value of your home today by taking advantage of this great offer. Again, 0% financing for 5 years and 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy. And by the way, that goes for any style of window from Window Nation, and there's no limit. Save thousands of dollars on your new windows and save money on energy bills, all while upgrading the look and feel of your home. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you. But don't forget, this deal does expire at the end of the month.
2-0 pitch, swung on, ground ball right side and through, a base hit right field. Meneses scores from third. Dickerson on his way to the plate. Here's the throw, the tag, and he is out at the plate. Jason Hayward with a perfect throw to Will Smith. And on one hop, he fields it and tags out Dickerson to end the inning.
Well, the Nats for this game on Monday night did not have much happening offensively. Just 1 run, just 6 hits, just 2 walks. The 6 hits were made up of 2 doubles and 4 singles. One of the doubles was by Corey Dickerson, who continues to hit since coming back from injury. Dickerson on Monday night as the Nats starting left fielder and number 6 batter, 1 for 3 with a double and a walk. He in what ended up being only a 1-run second for the Nats, had a 1-out double to right field on a 1-2 pitch, but he then got thrown out at home for the 3rd out by Dodgers right fielder Jason Hayward on a CJ Abrams 2-out RBI single through the right side of the infield. Wasn't necessarily easy to dissect this play in watching the game on TV. We know about Jason Hayward. He's been a defensive stud for years. How egregious of a send was the send of Dickerson by Nats third base coach Gary DiSarcina?
I thought it was quite egregious. Let's begin with this fact. The ball was hit 113 miles an hour, the hardest hit by any national this year, and the hardest hit of CJ Abrams' career. So the ball's getting to Hayward really quick. There's 2 outs, so I understand you want to be a little bit more aggressive. But let's remember who we're talking about here. This is a veteran guy who doesn't run well to begin with, and oh, by the way, just missed more than a month with a calf injury. So I did not love that. And the weird part is that it came moments after on the Dickerson double. Joey Meneses, who was on first, was held at third as Hayward still trying to corral the ball all the way at the warning track in right field. Now, Joey Meneses is not a great runner, so I understand you're maybe not going to be so super aggressive with him, but it felt like, at least watching the 2 of those plays simultaneously from my perch where you can see the entire field in front of you, I thought Meneses had a much better chance of scoring than Dickerson did, and he was thrown out by a couple of steps. It was not even a bang-bang play at all. So I get 2 outs. It's maybe a little different situation. You also look at who's coming up next. You'd have Alex Call, the number 9 hitter. So are you going to take your chances on him getting the job done with 2 outs? I didn't love it. I really would have loved for them to try for the bigger inning, but I also go back to earlier in the inning after the Dickerson double. You have Keibert Ruiz come up with a chance to keep the rally going, and he fouls out to the catcher on, I believe, the 2nd pitch. That's been kind of an issue for him as well, making quick outs early in at-bats. So there was good stuff from them that inning, but it did feel like they squandered an opportunity to turn that into a much bigger inning. And as it turned out, that was their best chance all night to do anything offensively.
Yeah, there just was not a lot going for the Nats offensively in this game. And look, you ended up losing 6-1. It's not like you lost, 3-1 or 2-1. So, that run that didn't score with Dickerson ended up not necessarily proving crucial. But yeah, I mean, in a game like this, against a team like this, you say to yourself in a moment like that, boy, that could come back to bite you, because like every little mistake you feel like can add up against a team as good as the Dodgers. So Abrams had the RBI single. The other double by the Nats in the game was by Dominic Smith. He in the top of the 4th had a 2-out double to the right center field gap on an 0-2 pitch. And we did have Lane Thomas late in the game extending his 2 streaks. In case you're unaware, Lane Thomas now has an on-base streak of 25 games and a hitting streak of 14 games. Lane on Monday night, 1 for 4, but the 1 is what mattered. He got the single, top of the 8th, a 2-out single through the left side of the infield. But you mentioned Keibert Ruiz and Alex Call. Boy, are those guys struggling right now. Ruiz on Monday night, 0 for 4. He is having a woeful month of May. His OPS for this season is down to 628. And Alex Call on Monday night, 0 for 3. He too is having a terrible May. His OPS for this season is down to 613. I mean, Keibert Ruiz is the Nats' number 1 catcher. We get that. Alex Call is not here to be an everyday outfielder for the Nats. He has become the team's everyday center fielder, with Victor Robles continuing to be out with back spasms. Victor Robles was placed on the 10-day injured list on May 8th, retroactive to May 7th. Here we are now, weeks later, and he's still not back. What is happening with Victor Robles in these back spasms?
Yeah, I asked for an update today on him, and I think back spasms may be the wrong term for this. Maybe that's initially what he was dealing with, but it seems like it's a larger back issue than just that. So that's a little bit of a problem. Good news is he went out on the field today and was doing stuff out there. He has been starting to take some swings, like light soft toss kind of swings. So he is progressing. I passed him in the hallway to the clubhouse today, and he said he's feeling a lot better. So he had a little more bounce in his step, which is something he hasn't had in the last couple of days. So he must be feeling like he's getting closer, but I still do think he's got a ways to go. And he's missed enough time now that even when he is healthy, he's got to get back into baseball shape again. And that means a rehab assignment and all that. So I think we're a ways away from him returning to the field. And it's unfortunate that a guy like Alex Call has had to be out there every single day, since it has not gone particularly well for him at the plate. I think defensively he's done fine out there, but I think you're seeing here Alex Call exposed as a hitter when he has to play every day. That's not the role he was supposed to be in. It's not really what they were counting on coming into the season, but there's not a great alternative there other than maybe having Lane Thomas move to center where we know he struggled at times. And then you're maybe putting Joey Meneses in right field instead of DHing. Is that a move you're willing to make to sacrifice the defense for that? Maybe there's an occasion or two to do that, but I think otherwise you just say Alex Call is going to be a solid defensive center fielder, and we just hope he does something at the plate, hitting at the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could have Lane in center and go with Dickerson and Stone Garrett as your corner outfielders, but I mean, that's not necessarily ideal. We do know that Ildemaro Vargas can play left field if need be. I think it does stand out. The team really doesn't want Lane Thomas in center field. I mean, even with Robles out for this prolonged of a period of time, we have not seen Lane Thomas in center at all. I mean, you know, to me, yes, he's better in right than he is in center. It's not like he's atrocious in center field. He's just better in right field than he is in center field. You can play him in center field, and Nats have done that a good bit the previous two seasons. But man, they really seem to not want to do that this season.
Yeah, ever since they made that move late last year and had him take over in right field, they've been pretty adamant that that's where they see him now. They want him comfortable there. They like the arm there. And just kind of saying, okay, we'll figure out center field otherwise. And, you know, like I said, I think Call has done a better job, and I think he is a better center fielder than Lane Thomas, but you are sacrificing some offense there, obviously. And yeah, there are different ways you can go about it. Do you want to let Dickerson play against a lefty? Do you want to let Garrett play against a righty? Do you want to put Vargas out there from time to time? I think there could probably be a little more mixing and matching here would be the answer instead of just sticking with the same thing every single day. But we see how they operate here, and this is kind of what they've decided their plan is until Victor Robles is healthy. And boy, who would have thought coming into the season that we'd say, man, the Nats really miss Victor Robles, not just defensively, but offensively.
He had been one of their better hitters, even though in watching him, I mean, you never felt like great about his hitting. But yeah, I mean, from a result standpoint, he had been better. But, you know, it's funny, man, with these outfielders, and I've said this to you, it may be that what the Nats have in terms of all of their outfielders are a bunch of fourth outfielders on good teams. And it's impossible right now, especially with this recent promotion of James Wood, to not say to yourself when it comes to Nationals outfielders, man, we're just waiting for James Wood and Elijah Green and Robert Hassel III to arrive at the major league level. And look, it's not going to happen tomorrow. We get that. Like, you know, we are a ways away from that, at least with the other two guys. Maybe Wood is here later this season. But like, yeah, you feel like you're just sort of treading water, twiddling your thumbs and waiting for the arrivals of the three potential franchise studs from the minors. I mean, that's kind of where you're at right now from an outfield perspective with the Nats.
Yeah, it's hard not to think about that. And, you know, when you have two young middle infielders already here who are part of the future, and then you look at the outfield and you see a bunch of guys who don't profile the same way. But as I've said, you know, throughout this season, and particularly applies to Thomas and even to Robles in some ways, this is your chance to show that you should actually be part of the plan moving forward. If they don't do their job, then they're just giving Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez reason to eventually replace them with the kids. But if either of them performs at a level that says, hey, you know what? I'm already the starting outfielder on this big league team. You're now going to have to unseat me. I don't care what kind of prospect you are. So if I'm those two, I'm focused on trying to do everything I can right now to seize this opportunity, because the job may not be yours much longer if you don't show that you can be a part of this, not just as a placeholder, but actually as a long-term piece of the puzzle.
All right, so Jake Irvin will be the National starting pitcher for Game 2 of this series at the Dodgers. A 10-10 start on Tuesday night. Jake Irvin, 5 starts at the major league level this season, ERA of 5.32, whip of 1.59. Initially looked pretty good. These last few starts, not so much. He's coming off what happened in the 8-6 loss to the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park last Thursday. 2 runs in 4 innings. Prior to that, 8-6 loss to the Detroit Tigers at Nationals Park on May 19th. 6 runs, 4 earned in 2 2/3 innings. And prior to that, 8-2 loss to the New York Mets at Nationals Park on May 14th, 6 runs in 4 2/3 innings. With the caveat of, you know, the Nats aren't overflowing with starting pitching depth. Do you think Irvin is pitching for a spot in the rotation, or would you not go that far?
I don't think we're there at the moment, only because we've seen Chad Kuhl now kind of moving into this, not just relief role, but maybe even late inning relief when they desperately need somebody. So I don't get the sense that they are thinking about him in terms of building him back up to start right now. That could change at some point. Maybe there's somebody in the minors they would look to bring up at some point. But no, I think the feeling on Irvin is they want to see some more from him. They know that he's got a long way to go, that he's still learning, that there are certainly some flaws there, and issuing walks and letting the pitch count get really up there early on is going to be a problem for him. Now, this is a very tough test against this lineup in this ballpark. We'll see how he handles that. I don't think they would make that decision based off of how he did against the Dodgers. I think they'd look more at the larger picture and want to at least give him a few more opportunities. You've got to have a clear-cut, obvious alternative there, and I'm not sure at the moment there's anybody that they say, okay, we really need to get a look at this person. Yeah, you could put a Paolo Espino or a Corey Abbott or a Chad Kuhl in the rotation instead, but is that accomplishing what they're trying to do right now with their pitching staff? No, you want to see young guys more. Yes, there comes a point that you say, okay, enough's enough. He's not ready for this, but I don't think they've quite reached that point yet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they should give Irvin an extended look here, as long as he shows some improvement or at least, some stability as a pitcher as time goes on here.
I mean, think about how long they stuck with Yohan Adon last year. They went a long way before finally making that move. They're not the same pitcher, different situations and everything, but there's a little similarity there, and you would think that he'd get at least more rope than just this.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, to keep in mind is, so the Nats do have an off day coming up on Thursday, so Davey can get back to pushing it a little bit with the bullpen here. And the Nats, in these coming weeks, actually do have a decent number of scheduled off days. They have one coming up on Thursday. They're going to have another one on Monday. So, not to say that Davey needs to go crazy with, pulling pitchers left and right, but I think he'll have a little more freedom, especially these next two games at the Dodgers, to lean on, the Finnegans and the Harveys and the Edwardses and the Thompsons, as opposed to these last few games in which Davey clearly has steered clear of these guys.
Yeah, it's a good thing he saved them all, didn't use them on Sunday so they'd be available for this game Monday, because this was the kind of game you desperately needed them. Oh, well, maybe not quite so much. I'm being sarcastic here. They were going to be off Sunday no matter what. That had nothing to do with today's game. But yeah, they're all available now on Tuesday, and you'd like to think they'd be available Tuesday and Wednesday if the team's in a position to keep the games close.
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on Twitter at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the show. We'd love to have you on board. Email Tim Shover, see what we can do for you. That email address is natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We also are accepting your submissions of tales of October 2019. If you want to share your experiences, your memories of the Nationals' run to the 2019 World Series Championship, you can record yourself into your smartphone and then email us that file. And that email address again, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website. You can check that out too, natschatpodcast.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. A thank you to Tim Newmark for the Nats Chat podcast music. Visit timnewmark.com. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
There are 162 games in a Major League Baseball season, and the players have a saying. Every team's going to win 54 games. Every team's going to lose 54. It's what you do with the other 54 games that counts.